as I wasn't able to take you up to see the mountain hares with the weather as it was last weekend, I thought I'd take you on a little virtual tour instead. So we're just heading up onto the tops of the moors now. So this is Bleaklow up above us over there, and higher shelf stones, lower shelf stones, the side of the hill around that side. Just the point that we're reaching at the moment is known as Dog Rocks. So it provides a great viewpoint across the valley, looking all the way down here. It takes us down to just down there, which is where we started from a short while ago. Heading up onto the moorlands now. So this is typical sort of peat moorland that you'll see in the Peak District, but it's undergone an awful lot of work to restore it over the last 20-30 years. So a group I do a little bit of volunteering with called Moors for the Future, and they're heavily involved in up on the moorland around here. So it's restoration that is really due to the effects of the Industrial Revolution, so 250 years of acid rain from Manchester, which sits just over there, and prevailing westerly winds brought all that acid rain up to this area, and the result effectively was that the peat, this is what you can see here, it had a pH close to that of lemon juice, so it really got to the point where it's so acidic that nothing could grow up here. And it's also covered in soot, almost literally, so on some of the hills just around here they found birds' nests that have been carbonated to be several hundred years old, which shows the effect of the pollution from the westerly winds from over there. But this is an area where they've done some restoration in the past. So you'll see all these little bits of heather. So this is heather brushings. So when they cut the heather, when they're making all the clearings, they prefer to cut it rather than doing it obviously these days. They'll then sprinkle the heather together with grass seeds, seeds onto this area. It helps really just to stabilise the peat, to stop it being washed away, leading to all the carbon release, which is the worst thing that could happen with this. So this is an area that's probably been done quite a long time ago, and you can see we've now got grasses, mosses, just little bits of heather starting to grow. So this is on its way back. Eventually I guess we'd want it to look more like this little patch here. So we've got bilberry heather, so this is the common ling heather. This is actually crowberry. This one's here. It looks a little bit like heather, but it'll have blackberries. It's actually one of the really good sources of vitamin C that grow up in polar regions. So we'll just take a little bit of a walk now further up onto the moorland, and we'll soon start to leave the footpaths behind and just start to head across those open moorland to the location that I'll be taking you today to see the mountain hares. So it always tends to be fairly wild up here. I guess it's one of the reasons why the mountain hares still survive up here. It's a fairly harsh environment. The forecast for today was clear blue skies and lots of sun, but I'm sure we're going to be there today. The cloud seems to be holding, although it is lifting nicely, so hopefully we should get some more great views and make it nice and easy to see some of these hares. So I'm just going to carry on the path. So it's only about 5 minutes since unfortunately. I guess to show how Bleaklow can be such a wild area, and also probably one flats around the Peak District. Unfortunately that caused a lot of problems since the first lockdowns, I guess, when a lot of people started heading up into the hills, which is brilliant, but unfortunately a lot of them were coming up prepared. The local mountain rescue team in Glossop at times has been called out twice a day up onto the Wicklow. There's a really popular crash site on the next ridge just over there, and a lot of people would come up there completely unprepared, unfortunately, and get lost and end up having to call mountain rescue out to help them get back down again, which is a real problem. Just noticed a couple of things actually while I was just stood there. Got a bit of reindeer moss there. It's actually a type of lichen. Down here we've got a mixture of pixie pebbles and a little bit of devil's matchsticks there as well, the one with the bright red colour on the ends. So again, they're fairly typical of the things that will grow on the peat up here, amongst all the mosses. So we've got fairly common sort of feather moss there. A little bit further on, I'll have a look at some more of the mosses. We've got one of my favourite, star moss. It's actually the tallest growing moss we tend to get in the UK. So in some really damp areas, it can grow up to a foot long. Anyway, we'll just carry on walking along here. You do have to be a little bit careful because there are lots of hidden holes in the peat. Unfortunately, it's caused by the rainwater washing the peat away. It eventually forms tunnels known as peat tubes that erode the peat under the surface. So these will be the holes where it's sunken through, and you've got a sort of half stream, half peat tube running along the ground here. So it's just starting to rain a little bit now, not too much thankfully, but a couple more things I've just spotted. So really all the way along these Mountain Hare Experiences, we'll be finding lots of things to have a look at along the route. These little leaves down here, actually one of my favourites. They're actually from a plant called a cloudberry. So in summer it'll have probably around end of July, August time, really bright type of sort of pinky orange coloured berries that become brighter and brighter orange as they ripen. Really quite a unique flavour, so it's a little bit hard to describe, but it's actually part of the raspberry family, but it grows along the ground here. I used to live in Sweden for a few years, and it was always one of the highlights of a ski trip when I'd be out cross-country skiing, that you'd go to a little hut on the mountains, have waffles with cloudberry jam. Really, really nice. And then just over here we've got an example of a couple of leaky dams. So where we've got the piles of stones here, so this will be work probably that's been done by Moss for the future. All the way up this stream bed here, they've built these leaky dams just made from piles of stone, so it'll be probably fairly locally sourced grit stone that we'll have used. The intention is that it slows down the flow of the water. It doesn't completely stop it, but it slows it down, and a lot of the sediment will fall out, so the peat that's been washed downstream will fall out and it'll settle there. You'll see above each of these dams you've got standing water, so that's places where the mosses and the other plants can start to grow again. So it's all part of the conservation work to stop the peat being washed away, because this is a really, really important carbon store. The peat bogs in the UK capture and store more carbon than all the trees in UK, France and Germany combined, so it's really, really important. And it's actually a relatively easy part of our emission targets if we can stop the washing away of the peat, which then goes on to release back to CO2 again further down the rivers. So yeah, really good we're just going to continue walking across this area of moor, probably for about another half hour or so. It's an area that I've become very familiar with over the last few years, so it's quite easy for me to navigate away across here, but if you weren't familiar with the area and you weren't good at navigation, you'd probably really struggle. So we've just come to a wet bit of ground actually while I'm talking, and here we've got a nice example of Sphagnum Moss. So there's quite a few different varieties of Sphagnum Moss, but these are the ones that are really important for creating more peat. So peat is basically created from the decaying sphagnum mosses in this sort of slightly acidic water. It decays very slowly, leaving new peat behind, and it develops new peat at a rate of about 1 millimetre per year, so it's really slow to produce. But once it's captured that carbon, it's a really good store as long as the peat's protected. I've actually got a sign of a mountain hare there, so relatively fresh. So just come across quite a good example of the peat tubes. So I'll just carefully lower the camera down inside. That's the sort of thing that we're dealing with. These little sort of underground streams that are washing away through the peat. So you can see here the peat's not particularly deep. We've maybe got about 60 centimetres of it or so until you get down to the gritstone. A lot of the areas around here is much deeper than that. So some of the areas around here are about 5 metres deep. So the peat is laid down about 1 millimetre a year, and it's predominantly from the Sphagnum Moss. So for about 5 metres of peat, you're talking about 5,000 years of Sphagnum Moss and peat production. So that's why we really don't want to lose it with it being washed away and eroded. So it's really important that we have this full vegetation cover that's protecting it. Okay, so this is sort of fairly typical of the terrain around the area where I tend to see the hares. So you've got these deep, what we call groughs, these sort of natural streamways that cut through and eroding the peat. They're actually good for walking through and getting a little bit closer potentially to the hares without disturbing them. So we're just going to follow up the side of this one, and you can see here where they've actually created a bit of a dam to help prevent the erosion. I've not seen them before where they've actually left the sacks in place like that. I'm quite suspicious about that, but there you go. Come up here and just see if there's any sign of any mountain hares. So the mountain hares are wide at this time of year, which is a really easy spot compared to the summer when the bloom progresses. So the clouds lifted nicely now. So we're up near the summit of Leaky Dams, and got a grouse just over here. So watching us, that's a red grouse. Silhouetted against the sky, the cloud. There he goes. Just turning away from us at the moment. Yeah, nice little view there. the young green heather shoots, which is the same got the hares, not to it actually. Okay, so the sun's just starting to come out now as well, which is ideal. So that's the Pennine Way, just going over there from the head of the top of Bleaklow, and just spotted our first mountain hare. Hopefully still there. Yeah. I thought with this camera, focusing on the video mode is a little bit tricky. Looks like it's having a little bit of a feast on the young heather shoots. She's facing away from it, so we'll see if it's possible to move around without disturbing it. And see if we get a slightly nicer view. There's our still with some nice groups in Manchester. Shaky due to the wind. So the way I normally try and get a little bit closer to the hares, part of it is the degree of just staying still. So if you stay still for about 5 to 10 minutes, get used to it, and then you can usually move a little bit closer. But I'll try and use the natural cover of the ground to get closer, so hiding behind the rocks and peak. Fun of it. So we'll just carry. Might have settled down that one. There you go. So I'm just going to back off. It's off running. I was just about to say, I'm just going to back off, hide behind the hill, allow it to settle a little while, and then go and have a look. But that was a typical case of when one spots us first. Beautiful, really nice white colour. So the reason the mountain hares go white is in winter, in order to be warmer, they basically lose the pigment. So a single strand of hair, as in a hair strand rather than the animal, the pigment actually goes up the centre of it, and then it's like a hollow tube with the pigment in the middle. So trap some air in the centre of the hairs, and that makes them much better insulators. So it's very much a participatory activity, this. To get closest to the hairs, ideally you want to be getting down on the ground, almost lying on your belly and creeping up the tops of some of these little ditches. So let's see what we've got up here. This is roughly where the other one disappears from sight. Just spotted another one without seeing me yet. It's just in the distance up over that way. My fingers in completely wrong direction in the camera. So it's looking towards me in this direction. The wind's coming from that way, so it's sort of sheltering from the wind. But also managing to catch a little bit of sun probably when it comes across on its side. So I think what I'm going to do is dark around that direction. If it's still there, perhaps see it from that side. Brilliant Sphagnum Moss here. And then we've got the star moss. And this is a different type of sphagnum. Notice it's got the brown centre, so there's about 7 different types. This really looks bright red. So we're just over towards the western side of Leaky Dams. Over here you can see there's still quite a bit of work to do restoring the landscape. So you can see this area here has been fenced off. They're doing some work there. See the white pegs to start trying to restore that area. So we'll cover that with the heather brushings and the seeds, and the grasses and the mosses will start to hopefully to grow and to stabilise it. So you can see here an example of where they've already covered the ground over with the heather brushings, and then the seeds that'll start to grow, your mosses and your grasses, to stabilise the ground.